talking a little bit about what prison was like for you.
Yeah, I think that's a great
Would
question.
you repeat the question?
Yeah, she's asking what was prison like for me. And I have a whole chapter called Atonement that really talks about daily life and personal life in prison on purpose. Because prison has this function in our carceral society where certain acts are called criminal. Certain kinds of mayhem and theft are called criminal, while other kinds of mayhem and theft are not called criminal. Mm-hmm. And then certain groups of people are much more likely to be held accountable for acts of theft and mayhem than other groups of people. So I always have to preface it with that. There's an element of the carceral culture that says meanness is the point. That when we had a meditation group, somebody intervened to stop it. They said, meditation for cons, too soft. So one of the ways I thought about it a lot was the punishment meter. Like, okay, so you want to give us a certain amount of punishment, and that seems connected to some certain actually defensible ideas of justice, okay. So if I sit on the grass in the sun, does the punishment meter run backwards? No. Because the problem is with punishment, there's no such thing as enough. There's no satisfying. That's actually a mental itch that part of us wants to strike out at somebody we perceive has hurt us or people close to us. And if we are not conscious that that's what we're working with, then there's no satisfying that. So that's the punishment meter. Everybody works, so I talk a lot about the different kinds of jobs we do and how we work together to make our space. And there's a lot of discussion about prisoners working now because it's also slave labor to run the prison. And here we have a paradox because it is true that it's exploitative, and it's also immensely valuable in meaning making for the people who are there. And people asked me when I was just getting out of prison, are you going to be a prison activist now? And I said, well, no, I've done prison activism for 6 years. I think I'm going to do something else right now. But I said, this is my prison activism. To every person I know, if you're going to have a political position, a policy position about incarceration, you're really obligated to go visit prisons and visit people in prison and know people who are there and hear what they're saying. So, but there's a lot of colorful stuff about clothes and everything.
One of my responsibilities as a social work intern at the prison was to do mental status evaluations of people who were in the hole, who were in segregation, and oftentimes the good girls and the well-behaved people went there for safety. Did you ever have a reason to go to segregation?
No, but I used to sometimes defy, especially if there were unjust rules and I couldn't get the prison to behave. I would sometimes defy. And one of my little tests about the defiance, or sometimes I just wanted to just have a moment's autonomy on the sneak. Anyway, so one of my tests was, how would the headline read? Katherine Power goes to solitary confinement for. And if I was going to be proud of the headline, I'd go ahead and do it. And if I was going to be ashamed of the headline, I'd say, well, maybe not today.